Have you ever found a community where you felt like a complete, unadulterated version of yourself? A place to call home without the need for an updated, patched, more palatable personality? For many queer people, the reality of changing and contouring yourself to fit the outside world's narrative is a constant and unyielding one. Under the pressure of a society built around people who differ from us, how do you cope? Hello, it's Salem. Welcome back. This video is a little different. I hope it's okay. I hope you still like it. I wanted to take some time to explore the relationship between the LGBTQ+ community and Animal Crossing, plus the subsequent community that has formed around it. So I bring to you, in collaboration with some of my beautiful friends, Animal Crossing and the queer community. In 2002, Animal Crossing Population Growing released for the first time in the United States, translated from the Japanese version. This game, despite being seen as the first official Animal Crossing title ever released, was actually only the first entry to be sold in the United States. Nintendo's first draft of the game was released only in Japan, worrying that the text-heavy stylistic choice for the series may not translate well for a Western audience. Little did they know, this down-to-earth life simulator was a much bigger hit than the company ever could have imagined. After success in Japan, the GameCube Population Growing release became a player's choice game in the United States. Kids growing up in the early 2000s might fondly remember Rossetti's traumatizing lectures and gruff voice. But the true beauty and unique energy of the game arrived when the main storyline tapered away. Instead of a quest, players instead were tasked with enjoying their life away from it all. Surrounded by adorable, yet sometimes asshole-ish animal villagers, you received a starter home, some tools, and given the A-OK to fuck off and do pretty much anything your pixelated self could dream of. A gameplay staple, freedom, had now been awarded to you. At the time, this concept of relaxing and barrier-free video games was almost completely new to the market. To the average person in this era who was used to Mario, Pokemon, and Sonic, the idea of this new styles without levels to defeat or tasks to complete could seem almost boring. What could you do with all this free time in the world of Animal Crossing? To its first players, that was exactly the appeal of the game. Boundaries of traditional story progression were lifted, and the characters living in your small town were no longer soulless NPCs, but real people you could bug until you pissed them right the hell off. The joy of this new world was found in the ability to play with life in a way that made you feel like you. As you know, happiness is a bestseller, and sell it did. Animal Crossing received new iterations on each exciting piece of technology Nintendo came out with, its graphics and mechanics improving with each edition. Already becoming a profitable IP, the game company decided that Animal Crossing would get its fourth United States release, Animal Crossing New Leaf for the Nintendo 3DS. And its success was absolutely massive. Spawning large numbers, the game took a small community by storm and grew its numbers exponentially. With new features, decorations and designing options, and more advanced online play, 3DS owners in 2013 flocked to the simulator for their next fix. So, where do a large number of people with the same interests drift over to? You're looking at it, the internet, obviously. I'm trying to distance myself from this portion of the video, but you can obviously see my whack ass landed on here too. As humans naturally do, the global players of Animal Crossing began to form new spaces and broaden the community for the game online. Of course, these forums and websites didn't start with New Leaf. The Beltree forums were founded in 2005. But the overwhelming success of New Leaf grew them into new heights. One of the websites many people found themselves in happens to be one of my personal favorite bits of internet history to discuss: Tumblr. Now, of course, we don't have time to unpack all of that, but almost everyone acquainted with Tumblr understands the atmosphere the site hosts. Landing on Tumblr, especially in the early 2010s, was like entering a social outcast club, and no, I'm not dramatizing that, I'm not being mean. A large part of the culture on Tumblr was based on being weird or quirky. Be it the fandoms you took part in, the subcultures you loved, or the way you chose to dress, every weirdo was allowed on Tumblr, whether that was for better or worse. The Animal Crossing community found a snug spot in the site's ecosystem, posting the layouts of their towns and interactions with their anthropomorphic neighbors. The space grew with new members every day, each post of an interesting build or new mod for the game becoming increasingly popular. Now, if you were a queer kid on Tumblr in that era, you can understand why I felt the need to bring up the website's connection to Animal Crossing. The main draw of becoming a citizen of the Hell site was to take part in fandom, in which many kids got their first taste of queerness, whether willingly or from accidentally stumbling upon a drawing of John Watson and Sherlock Holmes tonguing each other on the homepage. Yes, I have Tumblr trauma, and I'm not going to discuss it right now. It's not what this video is about. These merging, queer-focused fandoms ran into every corner of the website, willingly or unwillingly. You may remember the super Hulock era of Tumblr if you were there. You were bound to find a host of teenagers discussing LGBTQ+ characters or their own journeys with queerness, even if you took a single minute to glance at the site. The two places had one thing in common: safety for people who haven't known safety before. Or at least that's what they preached. Again, I have Tumblr trauma and I'm not going to discuss it. As soon as the Animal Crossing community of Tumblr formed, many users felt safe enough in the outcast-focused scenery to relax their filters a bit. Screenshots of interesting, and by interesting I mean it's queer, dialogue began to surface, with New Leaf villagers discussing boys wearing makeup, masculine villagers flaunting a new dress, or Roll letting you know that Chief and Bo had announced that they're tying the knot. That was real dialogue, apparently? I don't know. Of course, Tumblr wasn't the first place to notice these themes and point them out. A forum question from 2013 pointed out that Ed showed many similarities to MLM culture of the early 2000s. Another from the same place, now deleted, referenced a masculine-presenting villager as wearing a dress. However, I truly believe that the first intersection of the queer community and the franchise community began in the depths of the Tumblr sewers. The oddly open Animal Crossing community on the site grew more and more comfortable as years went on, attracting new people to the space with every pride flag design post. An accepting nature seemed to come naturally with the community, and unbeknownst to them, a pretty substantial event was about to befall Animal Crossing players. In the middle of March in 2020, thousands of people were sent home from their school and workplaces for a 2-week quarantine period. If everyone stayed home for 14 days before resuming their usual routines, the curve would flatten, and the break from the daily grind would be a fun period to look back on. We all know how that went. Alone, bored, and lacking structure, people from around the world settled into what they thought would be a temporary situation. With each passing day, not only did the state of global health become increasingly stress-inducing, but the hours alone in our homes became longer and duller. Enter our main character, the hero of this story, the March 20th, 2020 release date of Animal Crossing New Horizons. The 5th installment of the Animal Crossing series found its updates in a beautiful array of customization features, island designing mechanics, and stunning new graphics. The vision of the game had twisted slightly from its original form, becoming a haven for those who enjoyed creative work and world designing. The addition to the row of titles hit a sweet spot that no one could have expected, a release date nestled at the very beginning of a life-changing crisis. On the spring morning that would alter many's lives, the Nintendo eShop revealed its newest island getaway package. The pre-existing fans of the series had felt the hype grow inside them for many years since the game's announcement, running to stores and grabbing digital codes to play the new game. However, barreling behind them were people who had never even experienced Tom Nook's wrath before. TikTok, Instagram, Tumblr, and Twitter began to immediately flood with screenshots of the new gorgeous graphics and updated features. An overflow of success poured from every direction out of seemingly nowhere, the once small community teeming with brand new members. The insanely positive and massive reaction to the game's release brought it plenty of media attention. TV shows like late night, almost comedy Saturday Night Live featured the new title and sketches. Elijah Wood began playing the game and posting it on Twitter, and even news websites reported on the booming sales. New Horizons became a staple for the early era of quarantine. Now, 2020 was a year of self-exploration for many people as they were left to reflect on themselves for weeks at a time, discovering new parts and sides of their personality that they may never have uncovered without the hours alone. The LGBTQ+ community gained quite a few new friends in this era, including me exploring my own gender identity after thinking I'd ran the race with figuring out that I was a lesbian years ago. It was an interesting time, to say the least. Finding out new things about yourself is an exhausting, taxing, and sometimes painful journey. The queer experience in and of itself rings the same way. A constant battle against a life predetermined for us is pushed on us at all times. If only an escape could welcome us home. If only we could live our lives without fear. It wasn't perfect. Nothing would ever be perfect. But as Animal Crossing New Horizons was shown to the world in its calming, peaceful glory, the burnt-out queer quarantiners caught wind. A rush of creative, gender-bending, gay, and proud people entered the Animal Crossing space at the time of the exciting popularity of this new installment. With the culture spawning from a community of ex-Tumblr users, many original members were predisposed to acceptance and queer culture. Little by little, the surrounding fandom of Animal Crossing became gayer. Pride parades held on New Horizons islands, custom design codes for flags and shirts, drag shows in front of resident services, you name it, we made it. So that's how we got here, but why did we get here? Finding a home in something so beautifully simplistic marked a new era of expression for queer people. A safe space to let yourself free is a treasured and remarkable thing to come across, especially when you have been missing it for most of your life. What makes Animal Crossing a host for this? Probably weren't expecting a trigger warning in an Animal Crossing video, surprise, but in order to explore this connection further, I'd really like to caution you that I'm about to discuss, with no gruesome details of course, general mental health, homophobia, transphobia, marginalization, and a very brief suicide mention. Please consider your current state before continuing with the video. Your mental health is above all, and I want you to be safe. If you need any resources, they're down below. Check out the links. Talk to somebody if you need it. You are important to me. Please stay safe. Having a safe place to lay our heads down has always been a very pressing issue in the LGBTQ+ community. As early as queerness became an identifiable thing to the straight and cis world, there were movements against it. We have always existed, and we have always persevered through these threats. The places that accepted queer people into their communities have been far and few between. The constant fear for our safety, our respect, our jobs, and our happiness is not something to be brushed off or forgotten about. According to a February 2021 report from the United Kingdom Mental Health Foundation, over half of LGBTQ people have experienced debilitating depression and anxiety. 1 in 8 queer people surveyed reported thoughts of ending their own life, and half of trans people said they had attempted the action. These are just the statistics of people who have admitted to these feelings, and that's not an easy thing to do. Not everyone can do that. Enter an adorably animated game offering to help you create a stress-free island getaway, surrounded by neighbors and a universe you can tailor to your own desires, an outlet for creativity in every direction imaginable. The story of Animal Crossing begins with your character, the player, moving from a misunderstood life in the city to a quiet town and being given the chance to create a new identity. No one knows where you came from or what you've been through, just that they have a new neighbor. In Animal Crossing New Horizons and New Leaf, you're given a position of power and respect from your new friends. It's everything that was unfairly ripped from you when you discovered yourself. It's the dream many young queer kids have of one day being on their own and being free from the expectations set by the world. In many ways, Animal Crossing could be seen as a metaphor for the journey of finding yourself as an LGBTQ+ kid. It's the fantasy we all wish to indulge in from time to time. Not only does the game attract us with its concept and heartfelt story, it also allows self-expression in a way that not many titles have explored. Take, for instance, the removal of gender stereotypes. When creating your character at the beginning of the game, you're given an option to choose a style instead of the usual girl or boy options many modern pieces still utilize. This doesn't affect your appearance or clothing choices either. It's an amazing inclusion of non-binary people, in my opinion. Although I wish they would get rid of the style thing altogether, but that's just me. As I mentioned previously, masculine villagers are allowed to wear any clothes and enjoy them to the fullest extent. Characters like Sahara and Gracie Grace flip genders throughout their international variants, and I don't even feel the need to discuss Flick and CJ. I mean, they're gay. They're gay. They're just queer, alright? Flick looks like I did in my first edition emo era. Even queer relationships are mentioned in the dialogue, like this post that went viral on Twitter. A game like this is bound to become a place of solace for those who may not otherwise have one, and the clear support for LGBTQ+ people in the mechanics only sweetens the deal. However, I believe this is only half of the draw. The popularity of New Horizons skyrocketed a very niche variety of YouTube videos, the Animal Crossing community. Apparently I'm a part of that now? That's weird. With the success of the new franchise edition, videos from unheard of creators amassed millions of views, the surprising numbers shocking brand new creators. The Animal Crossing side of YouTube was booming in 2020, creating space for many new friends to try their hand at producing content. The videos began simple: villager hunts, island designing tips, any gameplay advice you'd find for every game that allowed it. However, as the trend went on, the videos gained a new creative flair to them. Voiceovers became dramatic and comedy-heavy in some portions of the community. And if you know queer culture, you know that humor and theatrics are a very large part of our media. It's a lot more fun that way, and the largely LGBTQ+ viewers of content really drifted over to this style. One of the pioneers in this genre is a good friend of mine who's appeared many times on my channel. You might know her. Surprise, Amanda's back. The Amanda Files, known by the same name on TikTok, is the first name that came to mind when I began considering YouTube's impact on Animal Crossing in general. She uses she/her pronouns. Beginning early after the game's release, Amanda's content focused on the dramatic antics of the villagers on her island Molokai. Her sense of humor drew in thousands of views on TikTok, prompting her to start a YouTube channel that received a similarly amazing reception. Keeping the focus on island scuffles and relationships in the style of reality TV shows, Amanda showcased character relationships involving queerness. Anka and Shino forever! and letting the representation of bisexual people and sapphic people coat her content. I thankfully got to reach out to her to discuss the impact of YouTube on her own personal journey with queerness and the community, so I'm going to borrow a few of her stories and words. Thank you, Amanda, for allowing me to use your thoughts. It's beyond appreciated. With the success she experienced, Amanda noticed an interesting trend in her social media audience and Discord server. The overwhelming majority of the people who consumed her content identified with the LGBTQ+ community. The safeness and open, loud support of queerness in her content created a welcoming environment for those she supported, even helping her to explore her own sexuality. Amanda shared this message with me about her feelings toward the space she created, quote, "The Animal Crossing community as a whole, and then my little subsect that came out of carving my own place within it, feels more like this beautiful organic thing that just kind of blossomed out of me, being like, hey, here I am, here's my vibes, and if you relate with that and want to come on down, then come on down." A welcoming, beautiful place for queer people with others matching their views is priceless. Seeing someone else like yourself who knows what you've experienced year after year is a healing experience that not everyone gets to know. When I asked Amanda what about Animal Crossing could be so attractive to queer people, she replied, quote, "I think as far as Animal Crossing being kind of like a fucking beautiful queer magnet, it's this comforting, cozy place where you can be super creative and where things are so unlike the rigged, demanding real world. There are so many ways to be and play Animal Crossing outside of just like male/female human, and you can really just make it feel like it's your own little world where you're safe and everyone is friends and everything is beautiful. I've read that there is actually a correlation between creative people and both neurodivergence as well as queerness, and Animal Crossing is such a game for creatives. You have to truly build the whole world around you, and I think that appeals to people who are not just creative, but also searching for a safe, more inclusive place in a world not built for them." Amanda made an amazing point in my opinion. The intersection between those who are neurodivergent and queer is extremely prevalent. The calming, relaxed atmosphere of the game creates less pressure to do things a certain predetermined way and provides a path very appealing to those with autism and ADHD, including me, fun fact. And Amanda isn't the only queer Animal Crossing YouTuber to create a safe space in her community. EJ Plays, who goes by he/they, host of Last Crosser Standing, has made an incredible impact in the past year and continues to make us all laugh with sarcastic humor and their theatrical commentary. Viz, known as Angry Coconut, also uses he/they, has absolutely blown up recently with his incredibly hilarious personality and their exciting video ideas. His incredibly fun demeanor draws you in immediately. Both of these amazing creators have used their platform to speak about queer topics and represent our communities proudly. In creator communities, especially servers or stream chats, a missing link is filled by allowing queer people to easily find new friends just like them. I've met some of my best friends in the entire world through these online spaces, some of which have helped me out with this video today. To deviate from my script for just a minute, I want to share my own experiences, so it's going to be super rambly. You're totally welcome to skip to the timestamp on screen for me to come to a conclusion. But hi, my name is Salem. If you haven't met me before, I go by they, them. I have found such a beautiful niche in this community that I didn't know ever existed. I didn't know there was a place for people like me. I didn't know that there was an accepting, beautiful place in a community that I could run to, and I found out in May of 2020 that this existed. I found out that there was a place for me that wasn't just about being queer, it was about creating, it was about being you, and I got to meet some of my beautiful friends. I've had a very rough couple years figuring myself out. I'm still fairly young, even though I feel like an old bitch now. I feel very old, but it's been a hard couple years for me, and I just truly am so thankful that this community came to me, and I just feel so connected to Animal Crossing because it is such a place of solace for me. It's a place to go when nothing else is working. It's a new chance for me. When I changed my name, fun fact, I have a dead name. No, you can't know it. I just restarted my Animal Crossing island and changed it, and it was new and it was fun for me, and it was perfect. Getting to see all of this representation and meet people like me is the most important thing to me about this community and what has helped me the most in my journey. So yeah, I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for allowing me to ramble. Thank you for allowing me to be non-binary, and yay. In conclusion, Animal Crossing has provided a second life for those who craved it most. I can't wait to see where the queer community goes next, and I'm proud of what we've done so far. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, this isn't my normal content, and I'll be returning to my whack-ass shit next week. I'll see you next time, my beloveds. All of my resources are down below. Everywhere I got information from is down below. Thank you so much to my friends for helping me with this, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.